Hello and welcome back to the Mountain Men channel. Today we'll be going over our Austro Hungarian Regiment and its regimental history spanning across both the Eastern and the Southwestern fronts. In this video we'll be looking at their journey through the Eastern Front, covering how, when and why the Kärntner 4th Landwehr Infantry Regiment were sent out to the Carpathian Mountains to fight the Imperial Russian Army between the years of 1914 and 1916 before returning home to the Alps. Before we begin, we'd like to give a massive shout out to Hermann Hinterstroisser and the rest of the writers of the Austrian Mountain Troops Book for a lot of this information, which helped us pin down a lot of the regimental history, as well as the Dolomitenfruende Museum, specifically Thomas Eger, for providing a few key specific points in the history of the regiments, as well as providing a direct source that we use to help with this video. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. Founded in 1894, the Landwehr Infantry Regiment No. 4, based in Klagenfurt, the capital city of the Austrian Duchy of Carinthia, saw only a few small pieces of combat before the outbreak of the Great War. They were involved in a couple of small operations in 1906, where they were then designated as mountain troops, and again in 1911. But as World War I kicked off on the 28th of July 1914, LIR-4 was mobilised, and in early August they were sent away from Carinthia all the way to Styria in the south of Lviv. It's worth noting that it's often seen that the high command of the Austro-Hungarian armies were tactically ill-prepared and often incompetently led, forcing LIR-4 to endure a lot of losses in the first few months, showing that between August 1914 and January of 1915, the Austro-Hungarian army went from 53,000 to 25,000 officers, and from 1.1 million to just over 500,000 soldiers. Although the number of regular soldiers was brought back up by mid-1916, the number of officers never really recovered, hitting a peak of about 36,000. As of the 21st of August, assigned to the 22nd Landwehr Infantry Division, LIR-4 began advancing towards the city of Lviv. Just under a week later, on August 26th, began the regiment's so-called baptism of fire, called the Battle of Szlachów, where the LIR-4 was dug in near the settlements of Holohory and Kubianov. After the 3-day-long fighting, LIR-4 were moved further east into modern Ukraine to the city of Przemyślany, where they encountered a further 2 days' worth of fighting against the Russian army. This battle would come to be known as the Battle of Nila Lipa. When that battle ended on the 30th of August, LIR-4 had about 10 days until their next battle. This was one of their biggest yet, being the battle of the largest settlement in the area, Lemberg, which is the Austrian name for Lviv. Stationed further west than the previous two locations as they started to slowly move towards the modern Polish-Ukrainian border, where the worst battles of the Eastern Front occurred. The siege of Przemyśl, given the nickname the Stalingrad of World War I, was truly a horrific battle for both sides to be a part of. In total, the siege lasted 133 days from September to March of 1915, resulting in a hollow Russian victory. Even though on paper the siege resulted in the capture of 9 Austrian generals, the surrender of over 110,000 men, which was nearly the entire Austrian force in that area, the losses and the casualties on the Russian side were nearly the same, boasting a similar 115,000 casualties, between 20 to 40,000 of which occurred in the first few days of battle. This is one of the quickest realizations in the war that the Great War would not be a flash in the pan, ending by Christmas, as many around Europe wanted to believe. LIR-4 was indeed a part of this battle, although lucky for them, for only around 20 days, between 20th October and the 4th of November, as they fought on the River San, including a lot of specific locations mentioned on screen to try and keep the Russian at bay for as long as possible. In a similar point in time during the battle for Dukla Pass in November of 1914, the 22nd LIR Infantry Division repelled a Russian incursion and then counterattacked by LIR 27, which was based in Ljubljana. After this, 3 replacement companies of the LIR 4 drove the Russians back, stopping them from taking the Dukla Pass for the time being. Coincidentally, an episode showing companies or battalions deployed separately from their regiment. However, between November 12th and May the 15th of 1915, LIR 4 were really moved all over the place in this area between Poland, Ukraine, doing what their commanders needed them to do, fighting in trenches, halting the Russian advance. On screen now is a list of all the locations LIR 4 were stationed in this time frame. May 14th, 1915, after months of trench warfare, they were finally moved on to the city of Kolomea. And until June 1st, they fought the Russians on the river bridgehead under the command of the Iron Major, Major Josef Troyer. Leading into June 7th, Troyer and LIR 4 were to repel massive attacks in Porostien and Lanezien, seeing Russian successes further down the front in Pruth, contrary to a retreat order. Troyer correctly decided to hold position, and even though LIR 4 lost about half of its combat strength, the steadfastness of the regiment made it possible to launch a counterattack, being reinforced by 2 Honved battalions, which are Hungarians. Attacking east of Porostien and being able to retake positions from the Russians for his actions, Josef Troyer was awarded the Military Order of Maria Theresa, the highest order of valour in the Austrian army. Now, of course, if you've been paying attention, this segment has mainly been around 1915, and as we all know, the Italians joined the war against the Austrians, and you're probably wondering, what did the Austrians do at this point? This will be covered in a later video, which will be released in about a week from now, as we only have one more thing to talk about LIR 4 on the Eastern Front. In 1916, after a few small successes on the Italian front, LIR 4, now a part of the 44th Infantry Division, had to leave as they were being transferred back to Galicia to help fight off the Brusilov offensive. The offensive aimed to relieve pressure off the Italians and place it on the Austrian Eastern Front, with LIR 4 seeing action again in Kolomea and Molotkov. Unfortunately, the Iron Major, Major Josef Troyer, was later killed on the 5th of July 1916. And in October of that same year, he was posthumously promoted to Lieutenant Colonel, and finally, in October 1916, LIR 4 was sent back to Italy for the final time, staying there for the remainder of the war. So that's all we have for the Eastern Front segment of our Austrian regimental history. Part 2 will be out soonish, where we explore the history of the unit in the Italian front and what types of things they did over there. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you would like, we have a load more videos and shorts for you to check out on the channel. Do make sure to check out our Instagram page, as we're also very active on there. If you have any questions, please do just ask them on our Instagram or even in the comments here. Please do stay tuned for part 2, and goodbye.